Alright, we're going to get started on our magazine. First thing that we need to do is open up Indesign. Once it's open here, we're going to create a new document. And the number of pages, we said it has to be divisible by 4. And so we're going to make a 12-page magazine. That's including our cover and our back page. Page size is going to be legal half. So it's going to be 8.5 by 14 page. Just fold it over. And the number of columns, 2. Once that is done and we have everything in a perfect spot, we're just going to say OK to that. So here is our page, and I'm going to hit Control minus just to zoom out, and here's our magazine. This page right here is our front cover. Then as soon as we open up our cover, this is page 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And this page that we see here at the end is our back cover, okay, of our magazine. So the biggest thing is, because we have a 2-column layout, we're going to create boxes that will take in photos in these columns. And it makes it nice and easy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the spread that's on page 2 and 3. So right now we're just forgetting about what's on our cover page, because we're going to be doing that later. And here what we want to do is we want to make these X boxes. These X boxes are just containers that will contain either text or photos. And by going in 2 columns, what we're going to do first of all is we're going to create one where the image is going to go across 3 of our columns. So I'm dragging this X box out, still holding my mouse button on the left, pushing it down, and now what I'm going to do is use the black arrow and grab these little nodes that we see here on the end and just stretch them out so that they go to the page boundaries. So we're clicking out here and going through and adjusting it. And these guidelines are here for us to help us out. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to place some photos that go into this 3/4 of our layout. And notice that it's going over 1 column, 2, and 3. Next, with our box still selected, we know it's selected because we have these little nodes on the edge. Then we're going to go File and Place. We're going to place our photos, and the first thing that we need to do is just find some photos for us to put in here. So right now we're going to just showcase some of the photos and cakes that were done for Skills Canada. So here is a photo of a cake, and I'm just going to use the white arrow because this photo does not take up all the 3/4 of the box that I've created. I'm going to use this white arrow, and as soon as I click on it, notice that the bounding box becomes brown. So then I'm going to use the white arrow. I'm going to grab one of these corners. I'm going to hold the Shift key as we did in Photoshop just to keep the proportions the same. And notice that only what's inside the container will show. Even though our image, you can tell that it's bigger, and now I can just move and arrange my photo to find the best part of the photo. So this is kind of what I've come up with, and I think this is pretty good. I can see the image, I can see, you know, it's not cutting off anything in the gutter, which is this right here where the pages fold over. So that'll be my first layout. So now I'm just clicking on the black arrow and clicking outside so that when I click on it, I want to see blue, not brown, because if it's brown means that I'm manipulating the contents of this X box. Okay, so now I have this here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another X box, and I'm going to make it over on the other side. And now I need to come up with a title for this page here. So I'm going to hit the T tool, and I'm going to click in here. I want to come up with a nice little title heading for this photo. So I'm going to say, "Let them eat cake." I'm going to highlight my text. Because I'm in the T tool, I have all the options dealing with text across the board. And you can see there's plenty of options there. So what I can do is, first of all, I can click here and pick a different font. And you can see that as soon as I've selected that, the font is updated here. I can click these little elevator buttons, the elevator going up, and I can click on it and notice that it allows me to take that text, make it bigger, and I can also mess around with leading, spacing. So now I have that, and it's black, which is not bad. I'm going to highlight that and maybe take one of the colors that are in there. So I'm highlighting the text. I'm going to use the side dropper tool, and I'm going to maybe pick the orange in there. I'm going to click back on my pick tool, and that's not bad. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I want other text going in there, and I don't want you necessarily to come up with the text. So I'm going to hit 2 enters here, and I'm going to change my text back into serif font, something like Times New Roman, or let's look at Times New Roman, which is a standard one that you see. So times, and there we go. So now it's Times New Roman, and most books and magazines are usually created at about 12-point font, which we see here. And now I'm going to fill in with text. But instead of me writing it all up, I'm going to cheat a bit, okay? And I'm going to put in some random text. So still with the text tool selected, I'm going to go up to type. I'm going to go down to fill with placeholder text. So if this is grayed out, it means that you're not using the T tool. So fill with placeholder text, and it'll fill it in with some random Latin text. Okay, so if you know Latin, that's maybe one cool thing. You can probably read it and understand it. Personally, I don't understand it, but we get the general idea. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to bring the leading, the spacing here so that it's looking. And notice that because that's the last color I picked, that's what it's keeping as my options. I can go in here, I can highlight this, and maybe the space might be too big there, so I might just bring this down a little bit. So I highlighted that, and then I came up here with the leading, and I can bring that number down. That seems better. If I need to add more text, I can just click in there and fill with placeholder text, and it'll fill it based off of these last parameters that I have in here. Okay, so once that's done, I have the text. If I want to change the color, I can once again, I can highlight whatever text I want. I can click here on the eyedropper tool, and I can pick a color like maybe this blue. So now this text that's here is joining, and it kind of harmonizes with the design of the photo. So I have the blue here is now picked up here. Now, right now the background is white, and I'm going to change that right away. I'm going to make another X box, and I want to make this X box right across this whole section here. And I'm going to fill it in, use the eyedropper tool. I'm going to take maybe the icing here on the cake, and I'm going to pick the pick tool again. Might pick maybe a lighter color, and maybe pick the, I don't know, that's kind of looking dark. I notice here it has to be an artistic decision in your part. So I think I like that. But hey, where did my text go? My text is just behind this box. So as you make something, it goes on top. Even though I should be teaching about layers, we'll talk about layers later. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go down to arrange, and I'm going to send it backwards. So I sent it to the back. So now here is my layout. Now these little guidelines that I have here, these little purple ones for margins, this X coming across here, makes it tough for me to kind of get the general look of what I have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the View menu. I'm going to go down to Screen Mode, and I'm just going to take a look at what my final product is going to look like. So I'm just going to go Screen Mode and Preview. That kind of looking pretty good. These text matches up. Oh, see this box here? I just wasn't quite right on it. And sometimes it's nice to be able to see it without all those little guidelines. And I can bring that over. And now I can click outside, and there. See, so sometimes you're looking at it, and it's important for you to zoom in, so Control plus and Control minus, to really look and make sure that things are actually snapping where they should be snapping. I'm just going to Control minus out of here, and so this is my first layout. And once again, adhering to the column layout, so you can see a column there. So we're going to move on to the next page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back my guidelines because it makes it easier. View, Screen Mode, and back to normal. So now with the photo, I did 3/4. I'm going to go maybe half here. And I'm going to place a photo in there. Once again, using my black arrow, I'm going to zoom in and make sure that it's right to the boundaries. And I'm going to put in a photo. So File, Place, and let's see, there's cakes. It's making me hungry here. Let's see, there you go. There's another photo there. We'll place that photo in. Notice that once again, the photo is a little bit bigger, smaller than my control, so I'm going to use the white arrow again, click on it. There's that brown box that I'm looking at. I'm going to grab the corner, hold the Shift key, just going to stretch that photo out. That's looking pretty good. I can adjust as needed, maybe bring in some more of that bread, and maybe bring it up to make sure that nothing is getting cut off. That looks pretty good. Okay, on this one here, what I'm going to do, I'm happy with that. Once again, adhering to the 2 columns. I'm going to now drag. I'm going to work backwards a little bit. I'm going to create a box in the back, an X box, and I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool. I think I'm going to take this blue from there. I'm going to use the black arrow again, maybe take just a little lighter blue. Okay, there you go. So now I have this layout here. There's some blue, and I'm going to create another X box. I'm going to drag it out here. I'm going to type a title in here and called The Joy of Baking. All right, capitalize as needed. So capitalize that. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to either remember the font or, and the most fonts that we want you to have in here is, I would say, probably 4 different types of fonts, usually the max that you want. Okay, so I have that in there. I'm going to highlight that. Maybe use the eyedropper tool, maybe take a color from my scene. And right now we're not sure if this is going to work, but this is where we experiment. I'm going to hit the T tool, I'm going to click in here, fill it in with text. So fill with placeholder text, that's pretty big. Highlight that, and I can change it. Remember, I had Times New Roman. Okay, we said 12 is standard, so we can pick 12. Okay, and my spacing, I have to decide whether it's important or not. I can click here, type at the end, and fill in with more text. Now, this spacing here is too big. I'm going to click on it, back it up, and then change my leading so that it's a little bit better. Okay, I think that's good. And once again, I can click down there, and I can fill it in with more placeholder text. This just gives me the look. So later on, if you were actually writing an article, you would have specific words and so forth. All right, so I've come up with text there, and maybe I'll put some more text on the other side. I'll click here, drag out, and I will hit the T tool, click in, and I will fill with placeholder text. Now this one's black, and maybe this one here, I might decide to choose even a color from there. And it's important that we want you to pick colors that were from your scene. This way you get some harmony to your design. So now I have this brown and white, which complements the colors in the breads with the part in there. Maybe I might even be adventurous, highlight this, and maybe let's take maybe the red from the icing. Let's see how that goes. So now there's some harmony here. Let's take a look at our final design. I'm going to go to View, Screen Mode, and Preview. Okay, so now it's starting to look like a magazine. Control minus to zoom out. So in my first part, here's my title. These letters are a little bit bigger. It doesn't quite matter because these pages act independently. But together, you can see that there's similarities with the fonts that we have for our headings and so forth. Now we're going to go back in here. And what we want to do is, oftentimes in a magazine, they will highlight a quotes and quote an area. So let's say there's something here, and I'm going to type in skills cake. And I want that to be a highlight. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to push that up a little bit more in size. Maybe I can change the italicized way. Maybe I'll even do bold italic. And just something that makes it pop. And I'm going to add a little bit of space in here just so that it kind of jumps out a little bit at me, and maybe capitalize some of these. Okay, highlight it and maybe change the color. And that's the joys of it. There's no right and wrong way. Can I go with red? Yeah, it kind of complements that. And maybe with this text, I'll highlight it. I can come into these areas here and maybe center that. Just kind of breaks up the ad a little bit, and we can control that. Okay, so now we have a 3/4. Using the 2 columns, we have an image here that takes 3/4 of it. We have a secondary one where we have half a layout, and now we could use these in combination. So I'm going to go back to View, Screen Mode, get back to normal, and in here I'm going to maybe combine these. I'm going to create an X box that's on this side. Make it simpler. We'll kind of do something similar to what we had, except we'll do an addition here. All right, so you can mix and match. You can maybe have picture here, text, picture text, or vice versa, and visually it has to work. So here's kind of the third things that I want to make sure that we cover this, and then we can get you to be creative with your magazine. So I'm making sure I'm good there, and I'm going to place the photo. So File, Place. Notice there's a shortcut, Control D, and anytime you can use a shortcut, I always encourage you to, because it's just faster. I'll come in here, I'll find another photo of maybe Chef Jones. You know what, we'll pass up on, actually, you know what, here we go. we got a picture of our chef. We'll click on the white arrow. We'll make sure that we go up really big with our photo, and notice that our photo went super big, and maybe what we'll do is we'll just maybe take parts of, and that's our photo right there. Okay, now notice there's the brown thing here, brown box, which is the edge of a photo. I'm going to click on the black arrow, click outside. So there's my photo there, and now I'm going to place another photo here. So I'm just going to hit Control D, which is the shortcut. Come down, and maybe what I'll do is I'll find another photo, and maybe of some pans or something. There's the pans there. Use the white arrow. So you can kind of see. It becomes an easy program to learn, and we can move and manipulate things as needed. Okay. We will add a couple of different things, and then we'll be good to go. I'm going to put a little X box in here. I'm going to put in some text. So type, fill in with placeholder text. And this time what I'm going to do is I want to put a little photo in between the text, and so that I can get the text to wrap around it. So I'm going to create another X box. I'm just going to make it on the outside here, a little small picture. I'm going to place a photo in there, photo with some buttons. There's some fitting options that we're not doing right now, but later on, if you take the course, we'll show you a little bit more. Now what I want to do is I want to take this photo, make sure that I don't have a brown box around it, and I want to click right up here, which means that if you hover over it, it means that the text will actually go around it. So I'm going to click on that, and now I'm going to take this text, whoops, just make sure that, click outside, I'm going to drag this over, and as I drag it, notice how the text is going around. I'm just going to zoom in, Control plus. I'm going to just look at it and notice that the text, with the black arrow, that the text is going around my image, which is pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to line it up there and maybe make my photo just a little smaller. Okay, maybe move it off to the side. And now somewhere in here I can see that the text is really touching it, so I kind of want to control the bounding box around it. So with it picked, I'm going to go up to the Windows menu, and I'm going to go down to Text Wrap. Once that pops up, it comes up like this, and now all of them are locked, and we'll just leave these locked for the time being. And we create this little box, this little bounding box, so the text doesn't come around that area. So if I move it over here, we can see text comes around there nicely, and it just adds to the overall look of the magazine. I can bring maybe the text over. Notice if I click inside, it picks the picture, but if I click on the outside, I can change it. If I click on the outside here, I can get these little turns, so I could even make my picture slightly at an angle, and so forth. So I can come up with some very cool ideas. So make sure that you know how to use text wrap, make sure you know how to move it, find the appropriate location for it, okay, and always make sure that you're coming up with a nice title for your magazine. Keep harmony to your design, change the font size. Okay, sometimes you can start there. So we want you to be creative also with the way that you set things up. And remember, you can have white around it. There's nothing wrong with it. The important thing, as we said, highlighting this, messing around with your spacing. The spacing looks too big right now. We'll squeeze those guys together. Okay, and I'm going to click right here, highlight all of those, and I can pick 18. So notice that my spacing between those two was a little different. Now they're all selected. So I'm going to highlight those, and using, once again, the eyedropper tool, picking a color from my scene so that things look like they gel. Once I'm happy, just to get a final look, View, Screen Mode, and Preview. So we want you to experiment with the other pages that you have going on here. Think about adhering to this 2-column guideline, and then we'll show you how to add page numbers here to it. Maybe your title of your magazine should appear here on the sides and so forth. So this is the start, and hopefully the rest of your magazine will look awesome.